It's frequently said that Dr. Bill has an eye for the damsels, especially his dive buddies. But this time I'm focused on a different kind. Any diver in Southern California worth their salt water knows this damsel. It's Gabriella Garibaldi, Hypsopops rubicundus, my other frequent dive buddy. Yes, Gabriella belongs to the damselfish family. There are about 350 species of these damsels, living mostly in tropical and subtropical waters. After all, some like it hot. Divers often enjoy this pugnacious orange fish and its antics. Garibaldi are found from Monterey Bay to the southwest corner of the Sea of Cortez, but are only common from Point Conception south. Highly individualistic, they defend their territory and their nests with surprising vigor. Their tiny, brightly colored offspring are beautiful to watch. After 5 to 6 years, the juveniles become sexually mature and their blue spots disappear. They can now begin to do their part in carrying on the species, as Gabriella and Gary are seen undertaking here. The other common damsel in Southern California waters is Blanche the blacksmith, Chromis punctipinus. This species ranges from Monterey Bay to central Baja California, with most encountered from Southern California south. These mild-mannered fish are not as feisty as their cousins. They rely on numbers for defense against predators like cormorants, and are a schooling fish that feeds on plankton. At night, the adults also shelter in the rocks from predators like seals and sea lions, although kelp bass and morays may take them then. Schools of their colorful young may be seen in the water column or hiding in the rocks for protection. On October 6, 2012, at Casino Point Dive Park, the silver-tongued devil himself, Ken Curtis, returned from a dive and told me he had seen a tiny fish that acted like a baby Garibaldi but was completely different in color. He later emailed me the photos he took. I suggested it might be a juvenile damsel of one of the Mexican species, pulled out my trusty field guide for the region, and tentatively identified it as a baby white-tailed damsel, also known as the white-tailed Gregory. The juveniles are dark blue with an olive-green nape, upper back, and spiny dorsal, and a dark eye spot at the rear of the dorsal fin. I contacted former Fish and Game biologist and fish expert Dan Gottschall, who confirmed the ID based on still images extracted from my video. Professor Giacomo Bernardi, a molecular biologist at UC Santa Cruz, also verified it and offered some great information on the group of species it was part of. This was the first record for the whitetail in California waters. So move over, Gabriella and Blanche. There's a new damsel in town. I spent several weeks filming it, Reaching incredible maximum depths of 2 to 3 feet, the whitetail was often joined by several of its Garibaldi cousins, but they were not always nice playmates. However, it seemed to find enough food to munch on and grew, slowly. The white-tailed damsel and its closest relatives are still undergoing scientific scrutiny, including DNA analysis, to determine their evolutionary relationships. Dr. Bernardi says this is a complicated group taxonomically. It is believed the white-tailed damsel, Stegastes leucorus, is found from the Guadalupe Island south of Baja to Guadalupe Island off central Baja California. 90% of its total population is believed to live in the islands south of Cabo. Due to its rather restricted range and possible impacts from El Niño events, it is considered vulnerable to extinction. Stegastes bbi, once considered a subspecies, is found further south in Central and South America. So how did the whitetail make the leap to Catalina, about 300 miles north of its northernmost location on Guadalupe Island? These fish are reef-associated, meaning they don't wander far from home. However, after hatching, their larvae are planktonic and may disperse northward with the countercurrent sometimes associated with warm water years. Thus, its arrival in our waters is an example of natural dispersal, making this an extension of its geographic range. If it survived here, it would be considered a native species. This is quite different from exotic species, which arrive through intentional or accidental human activity. A good local example is the prolific Asian seaweed, Sargassum horneri, which dispersed to our region on board a commercial ship coming from the Sato Inland Sea of Japan. Another example is the red lionfish, a native of the western Pacific, which was introduced into the Gulf of Mexico and Caribbean waters when Hurricane Andrew released individuals from an aquarium in 1992. These species are not found anywhere near their new homes and therefore are not native to the areas they have invaded. Both cause serious ecological damage to the native ecosystems. I have referred to this as the lonely damsel since there have been no other confirmed sightings. Now that poses a serious problem for this species' establishment in our waters. The other damsel species all have mates here, but not this one. To become a full-fledged member of California's damsel population, it must first survive. It appears to have found food, but it must also avoid being food for a hungry moray, a kelp bass, or other predator like its cousin did here. Blacksmith had the protection of their schools, which the little whitetail did not. The temperatures here must be appropriate to survive and grow into an adult like this one, which may reach 5.5 inches. Finally, it takes two to tango, so it needs a mate to reproduce. Perhaps our chilly temperatures would not permit it to do so successfully. Unfortunately, our little damsel apparently did not have that chance. It disappeared within 2 months and hasn't been seen again. It may have been due to heavy surge associated with a storm or a hungry predator that did it in. Oh well, at least it's no longer lonely.